probably one of my favorite things in the world, just walking around aimlessly. I tend to take the train somewhere and then kind of explore and take my time and take back streets and find different ways of arriving to the same place. And I remember my grandmother once said to me that I would never marry because I was always too preoccupied on finding the right tomatoes when the reality was that any tomato would do. And that's always been the thing for me. And I think it's the same reason why I love walking so much, because it is a lack of convenience and it's a lack of efficiency. There are so many ways for me to get from point A to point B that are more efficient than taking back streets and leaving early in order to be able to wander around. But it's also the reason why I'm able to stumble upon something that I really like, something that I didn't even know I wanted or that I didn't even know existed, because it wasn't on a list of the top 5 cafes to visit right now. I had a whole plan of going to the beach, but it's so windy and so cold. So now I'm just walking around aimlessly, which granted is one of my favorite things to do, so I'm not too mad. So I think I'm just gonna go pop in and out of cafes and bookshops. I think that's the plan. It's icy. Yesterday was 39 degrees, today 15. I'm not used to this. So it goes beyond what I had imagined could exist. And of course I'm speaking in very hyperbolic terms, but I think that this is the crux of of it all for me. And when I think about pleasure and romance as like driving forces in my life, they seem quite frivolous when I say them out loud. But the reality is that on a day-to-day basis, when I choose those instead of efficiency and convenience, my life just becomes so much more interesting, and I get to come back and rest my feet and feel very satisfied with myself. And of course now I speak not only of the walk or finding the right tomatoes, but just life in general. When I choose the least convenient path, I'm just taken aback by the things that pop up, and how surprise is a feeling I don't think that we feel often enough anymore, because everything that we pick has been very well researched, at least for myself. I am a victim of this, and I'm trying to get out of the habit and picking up a book just because, I don't know, it looks interesting and not because I've heard about it before 1,000 times. So yeah, that is all to say that I found a really cute cafe that I'd never been to before, and I just stumbled upon it. I hadn't heard of it, and I was making my way home, but decided to take a back road that I never take, and there it was. And so then I sat there for a couple of hours reading, having my coffee, and it was wonderful. It was so wonderful. One of the things that I used to do a lot that I haven't done in a very long time, but it was a way of making the same walk that I would take just a little bit more interesting, and I guess to be able to pay better attention and notice things. I think this was especially for me during the pandemic when I was back in Sydney, and a lot of us were just feeling claustrophobic about this idea of not being able to leave and not being able to go to certain places. And so it was like the same walk over and over and over again. And it was just picking a color and noticing everything that was in that color and taking a photo of it. And that was such a lovely, easy, accessible practice that made me realize that even though I take the same walk time and time again, there are so many things that I don't notice because I'm on autopilot. There are so many things that I'll walk past that can be quite beautiful or interesting or strange that I don't notice because I'm like trying to get to the train station or just trying to get the steps in, whatever it is. And I think the thing with these practices that seem so simple and sometimes can sound a bit like irritating, like having a gratitude list and noticing things in a certain color. But what I have found with practices like this is that they tend to bleed out into other aspects of your life, and they start to make you a person that notices things more outside of that little 30-minute walk. And even if it doesn't, you know, it might be fun. I think if you're a person that experiences more romance, more pleasure, more joy in their life, kind of radiates and spreads. So anyway, that is all. I have been reading a lot this month. I think I've just been a little bit more, I have more free time, first of all, and second, I go out most days with my cats. We just go out to the front porch and they love it. And I've taken that as an opportunity to sit with them and read my book because there's not much walking involved. I just have them on a leash and they just kind of like roam around, and then they just sit and they notice things, and it's quite precious. They've also inspired me to sit and notice things, and a lot of the times I just put my noise cancelling headphones in with nothing on, and I just look at what they're looking at, and it's quite lovely. Anyway, I have read 2 books recently, and I thought I'd just talk about them. And I'm going to start with The Friend. And I mentioned this, I think, a few videos back because I got this from an op shop. It was like $4, and I had heard so many things about this book, and I just remembered seeing it everywhere, and maybe someone recommended it to me, and now I feel offended by that because I detested this book. And the only reason I finished it is because someone picked it for book club, so I had to finish it in order to be able to discuss it. I thought this was going to be, because this is how they sell it, a heartwarming story about loss, about grief, about love. It's about this woman who loses her friend to suicide, and then she has to take care of his dog, who is a large dog. It's a Great Dane. And it's about, it was meant to be about that relationship, the relationship between her and this dog. And I just did not feel like that was the book at all. It seems like a very fragmented and messy story that is trying to be many different things. I didn't care for any of the characters, even the dead friend. I did not like him as a man. And I, for one, I love a plotless book. And I'm intrigued by unlikable characters, but this person just seemed unlikable without any complexity. She just seemed very obsessed with her own writing, with quoting other writers and being very critical of her student writers. So I did not like this at all. I gave it a 2 stars at book club. No. So thank God for Annie John by Jamaica Kincaid. I love this book. It really revived my appetite for slow, deep reading. This is a book about girlhood, but mainly is a book about a mother-daughter relationship and a dynamic that changes over time. So it's a love-hate dynamic, which a lot of children and their parents and caretakers can experience. I think it's very true for a mother-daughter relationship. It seems universally true. And I think it describes it quite accurately and quite well, how it just happens rather slowly. As you're a kid, your mother is your only love, and you just see so much beauty in your mother, and that slowly erodes, and you realize that you are separate from this person and you have a different identity, and maybe there's a lot of dissatisfaction in that relationship, and there's a lot of anger and grief in kind of paving your own way away from your parents, who probably have different expectations of you, different beliefs, different values. But this is also about a young woman whose environment simply cannot provide for her emotional and intellectual development. And also this has wonderful descriptions of food in Antigua, which I really appreciate. I appreciate when food is mentioned in any novel. I don't think that it happens as often as I would like. So I really, really enjoyed those moments. I absolutely adored this, and I am eager to read more Jamaica Kincaid. More than that, I feel like it just, as I said, kind of reinvigorated my my appetite and desire for reading more and taking more notes and appreciating a good sentence and a good paragraph and good character development. I also found that this was very funny at times, which I really enjoyed. Anyway, so a book I hated and a book I really loved. I also think that that's the beauty of book club. I love my book club. The things that have been picked have tended to be things that I wouldn't normally pick, and it also just pushes me to finish books that I would otherwise put down, and provides a lot of space for discussion and hearing other people's opinions. There were some people in my book club that really enjoyed this book, so that's great for them. And now I'm currently reading Susan Sontag's notebooks and journals called Reborn. I have been a big fan of Susan Sontag for a very long time. I was just walking around my library and I saw this, and so I picked it up and haven't been able to put it down. Whoa. I mean, I think she's 14 or 16 when these journals start, and already the way that she writes and thinks about things and the way, like, the connections that she's making, a prodigy and a voracious reader. And I have always really enjoyed reading writers' journals and notebooks. So this has been great so far. So yeah, those are the books.